Organizations that learn are ethical in their communication, have this more prospective vision, and are able to frame things are more effective than organizations that focus on their image or their reputation or to focus just on the threat of the issue. Those organizations are much more effective.
Okay, everybody, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about recovery campaigns and what that looks like. And the coronavirus has really thrown so many of us for a loop. If you have found yourself struggling to know how you're going to plan your recovery campaign, or if you're not sure if you've got the right plan in place, my team has been putting together these recovery campaigns for several destinations. We would love to take that opportunity to provide one for you. If you're interested in getting some guidance for your recovery campaign, whether it's just for us to take a look and give you some high-level recommendations, or if you're looking for someone to help you see it all the way through, we'd love the opportunity to take a look. If you're interested in having us take a look and help you come up with the right recovery campaign, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com and we'll get you set up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. I'm excited to be with you today. We've got a great episode. We've got a guest that I really look up to, and I'm excited to chat with today. Many of you know that my dad is a professor at UNLV in media and public relations, and he works very closely with his colleague, Rob Ulmer. And Rob is the Dean of the School of Communications at UNLV. And Rob, welcome to the show.
Adam, great to be on your show, and nice to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I may have butchered your title there, Rob. Can we clarify for everybody that's listening?
Yep. So I am Dean of the Greenspun College of Urban Affairs.
I butchered it. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got it right. Rob, I've got a lot to ask you today, and we're going to have some fun. You know, you and I have had the opportunity to play golf together, for better or for worse, and we'll have to do it even more. But I'm excited to have you on. We've got a lot to talk about. But before we do, we've got these icebreaker questions that we like to ask just to get the conversation going a little bit. And as it is a podcast for the travel industry, I've got to know, Rob, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Right now, Adam, it is Ireland. I want to go to Ireland to play some golf. I've been able to go to Scotland and throughout the UK to play golf. As you know, golf's one of my passions. I really enjoy playing the game, and a place I have not been yet that I am really excited about the opportunity to go is to play some of the Irish golf courses and see how my game stacks up there.
Oh man, and those links courses, it's a lot more difficult, isn't it? Out there in Ireland?
Yes, absolutely. You've got the elements, the rain, the wind. You play the ball closer to the ground. In the United States here and in Canada, it's more of an aerial game. But so you've got to play different kinds of shots, and certainly yardage books and sky caddies and things like that aren't as important when you get overseas to play some of those links courses.
Yeah, see, that scares me a little bit, Rob, and I'll tell you why. To pay the money that it would take to get to Ireland, just to be incredibly upset with my golf game, it sounds like a tough thing for me to go through.
Adam, listen, you're going to be frustrated. We're all frustrated with our golf games. So, regardless of whether you're paying money or not paying money, at this point, you, as a golfer, you just understand the level of frustration that comes with the game. You know for a fact, and I've played golf with you, that you're going to, like the rest of us, you're going to hit a couple good shots at the end. It'll make up for the huge bill that it's going to cost you. And, you'll go on to play other courses and visit other places. So if you haven't done it, Adam, it's worth doing. It's worth going overseas to play. We've got great courses in Nevada and Utah and in the West Coast and East Coast, but going over is a special treat. It's a little bit different kind of golf, and you can check out your frustration overseas as well, which is fun.
I like it. I like it. Okay, that's a good one. Ireland. Tell me, as far as places you've been, you mentioned you've been to Scotland. Tell me your favorite trip you've ever gone on.
Favorite golf trip or favorite trip?
Hey, let's do both.
Okay. Probably favorite golf trip is probably to St. Andrews in Scotland, the home of golf. I've been very fortunate to play a lot of places around the world, but to play at the home of golf, I played Carnoustie as well in Scotland, and to play those Scottish courses where golf started was just absolutely incredible.
Oh, it must have
Um,
been.
yeah, I mean it is when you stand on that first tee, Adam, where golf started, and it's an incredibly wide fairway, but the nerves start picking up very, very quickly, and you start to see out of bounds left and a burn right, and just the history that is there. It is a really exciting moment, and a very kind of historical moment. You feel like you're a part of the game of golf when you tee up there, and so. Getting over to Scotland, St. Andrews is just a beautiful college town. So, being a college professor slash dean, I love higher education. I love education. So being able to take my family over there and my two daughters and wife to see what the college town looks like. It's one of the best universities in the UK, and the whole context is just absolutely fantastic. So golf wise, that's probably been the favorite trip I've been on, and to take my family over there and to share it with them was really fantastic. As far as another trip,
It's probably hard to come up with, it sounds like,
it
with all these
is
golf trips.
it is my God. We go on little trips as a family. We'll go to L.A. or Palm Springs or just little day trips and weekend trips or week trips just to spend time, with the family. And I always enjoy just doing that. I've got a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and so you can imagine, Adam, how our schedules kind of go in different directions. My wife's trying to coordinate all of us. So when we have just little opportunities to spend together for a weekend at the beach or wherever we spend time, I think that's what I really enjoy doing, catching up with everybody.
So for you in this scenario, not necessarily the destination, but just the opportunity to spend that time with your family.
It really is just connecting with them and hearing about what they're doing, and having conversations about obviously with COVID-19 and the kind of unrest in the country. There's so many things to talk about, and when you're 14 and 11, there's so many other things going on in their lives. So you're right. It's just any time where we can unplug a little bit, get away, and spend a little bit of time together. I think that's exciting. I know your dad had reached out to you, and one of the trips we're planning in the next little bit is to get into southern Utah and get into Bryce Canyon and get into some of those places and just again unplug, spend a little bit of time. We haven't done a lot of that in southern Utah, to travel to southern Utah and spend some time there, and so we're really looking forward to that. And hopefully, Adam, you'll be part of our planning process so that we can make that happen as well.
Oh, I'd love to help. I'd love to help. Southern Utah, I mean, there are some life-changing views, and that sounds so overstated, but there are some amazing things to see in Southern Utah, and I would love to help you plan that trip because there's so many amazing places that I'd love to send you to. You may need like 3 weeks to see it all, but we'll figure that out.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to
Well, that's a good intro, and I'd love to have you just give everybody kind of a brief background of your experience and what led you to where you are today, so that we can get to know you a little bit before we dive into some of your opinions and philosophies on the travel industry.
Sure. So I grew up in a small agricultural town in Saskatchewan, Canada, and
That's how you say it.
that's right.
Okay.
I won't have you spell it because that's always a challenge for people. But yeah, not much going on in that province at that time. But hockey and farming. It's got world class farming and world class hockey players. And so I grew up playing a bunch of hockey, and that was an important part of my life, kind of growing up. I ended up going to the University of Saskatchewan. I got my bachelor's degree there, and then wondered kind of where I was going to take the rest of my life. Went to college a little bit earlier, so I was about 20 years old at that time, and trying to wonder where I was gonna go. And I thought for a little bit about enlisting into the Air Force and maybe flying planes and doing things like that. And when I went through my interview and some of that process, one of the things they said is, hey, if you had a graduate degree, you'd be able to come in a little bit higher up the military ranks, and that could help you kind of as you move through the military. So I looked at some different programs and ended up going to North Dakota State University in Fargo, North Dakota. Great movie. If you haven't seen Fargo, Adam.
Yeah, we've actually had the destination on the podcast to talk a little bit about how the movie has played into their destination marketing. Anyway, we won't dive all the way into that, but yeah, we know Fargo.
It's a great city. It really is. And if people haven't been to Fargo, just incredible people and an incredible environment. And I spent a couple years there at North Dakota State, and really started to get involved in crisis communication at that time. There were some foodborne illness outbreaks. Jack in the Box at the time and Schwann's had some foodborne illness outbreaks. And of course, Fargo had dealt with some floods. It's actually Fargo and Grand Forks are built on lake beds, ancient lake beds. And so I started to learn a little bit more about crisis communication and really fell in love with it and really fell in love with higher education. I think some of my education in Canada was very kind of authoritarian, and I didn't really feel like I was engaged as much as when I came to the United States and began studying some of my graduate education. Was just really fantastic. And so from there, I ended up going to Wayne State University in Detroit, where I got my PhD in communication and really kind of developed out this idea of renewal that we'll talk today about, how organizations can respond to crises effectively, and that can look at organizations a little bit differently. And from there, my wife and I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, where I worked for about 16, 17 years at University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and then moved to beautiful and exciting Las Vegas, where we've been for the last 6 years. And so just been, really exciting time. And, when I sit in go to my children's schools, the kids sometimes ask, how did you end up as dean of a college? Because they're always thinking about what they want to do when they grow up. And I certainly wanted to be a hockey player growing up, but it's interesting how your paths change, Adam, over time, and you end up doing things you could have never imagined.
Yep, that's exactly right. And it's fun to hear a little bit about your path of getting to Las Vegas. Whenever I tell somebody about the different places that I've lived, the question is always, well, are you a military brat then? And it's like, no, worse. My dad's in academia. And it sounds like you're well traveled in getting your education and your professional career as well.
Yeah, it's really important. I think that's one of the great things about education. And I think, as we were talking earlier, when my children see a place like UNLV, or they go up and see, go to Scotland and see St. Andrews, or we're traveling and they see UCLA or University of Utah. I mean, BYU, they see these places, they start to see where education can take you. And I've been very, very fortunate that education's been able to take me around the world, and I've been able to experience a lot of different things through education. So that's been fantastic.
Well, and you've been exposed to a lot of different situations, and that's where I kind of want to dive into. You brought up crisis communication, and the tourism industry is as in crisis right now as it has ever been. There's a 51% unemployment rate. One of our partner hotels that I've spoken with had the first night in their history with nobody staying in the hotel during that night. Some of the numbers are down upwards of 90% in some areas. And so knowing that this is definitely a crisis, you have such a wide ranging background in crisis communication that I felt like we needed to have you on and talk about, I'd like to understand generally how you approach crisis communication, and then we'll get a little bit more specific as the interview goes on.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Obviously, Las Vegas is tourism, is founded on tourism and having people travel to Las Vegas, and so we have one of the largest unemployment rates in the country, if not the largest unemployment rate.
Rob, I'm going to interrupt you there. Sorry, I saw a statistic. I think it was yesterday that the casino industry generated in April of last year something like $386 million in winnings, and this year it was 3 million
Yeah,
in April. That's
it's
unreal.
it is unreal. And we've got real close partnerships with, MGM Resorts and Las Vegas Sands and a bunch of different, gaming organizations. And it has just been incredible, how difficult the time has been, over this last 3-4 months. And so when you hear a statistic like that, Adam, it's absolutely incredible. When you said, crisis communication, when you study crisis communication, what you'll see in the literature, Adam, is just obvious failures. You see all of these attempts at people trying to restore their image or their reputation. You see people making obvious mistakes. And when I began to study this literature, I started to wonder, are any organizations doing, or any communities communicating effectively? And I think one of the sole examples of that that I could think of over time was kind of Tylenol. And I don't know, do you remember Tylenol and what happened with them?
Jog our memory.
Yeah, so they had a tampering episode with their medication, and when they did that, they immediately pulled the product from the shelves, and they went on a show called Donahue. I'm not sure, Adam, if you even know what Donahue is.
Yes, yes, this is coming back to me.
Yes. And, they did all of the right things. And in fact, when they did all of the right things, they actually grew market share the next year and were able to succeed at an incredible rate because they took the crisis and they created an opportunity out of it to connect closer with their customers, to be ethical and responsible, and to do the right thing. And I think when you look at crisis situations, there's something that I call a threat bias that happens in crisis situations, and that's where people get so fearful of the threat of what could happen from this event that they kind of they lie about things, they deny things, they shift the blame to other people, or they don't communicate at all. They do all of these things that then create the wrong kinds of impacts and the wrong kinds of effects from a crisis situation. So I started to study organizations that had and work with organizations that started to do things differently, do things more effectively. And what we found was organizations that really learn from crises, they learn from the event, and sometimes that's vicariously, right? So they learn by experiencing something, and sometimes it's through learning from other people and what they're going through and learning from those events. My father, Adam, used to tell me, you don't have to make every mistake yourself, Rob. You can learn from what other people are doing. And I think organizations are that way as well. Oftentimes, they make their own mistakes, but they can learn from other organizations how to resolve some of those issues. We found that organizations that respond to crises ethically, that they look after their stakeholders, that they give people what we call significant choice. They allow people to make decisions about their outcomes and what they believe is going to be the best decision for them and their family. We find that those organizations are more effective. And we find that organizations that have a more prospective vision than a retrospective vision, so organizations that kind of look toward the future rather than trying to look backward and decide who is at fault or who's responsible or why it happened, are more effective. And then organizations that can kind of be models for their industry, that can kind of frame events for people and make sense of them. I think you can see that with Governor Cuomo right now in COVID-19, kind of talking, on these daily press briefings. Structuring reality for people is helpful. So as we studied organizations, Adam, we found that organizations that learn, are ethical in their communication, have this more prospective vision, and are able to frame things are more effective than organizations that focus on their image or their reputation, or are looking to shift the blame to someone else, or to focus just on the threat of the issue. Those organizations are much more effective.
So, Rob, you mentioned threat bias, and that's a principle I want to dive a little bit deeper on because I really feel like that applies to what some destinations are dealing with right now. Walk me through just a little bit deeper. What is threat bias, and how can we make sure that we're avoiding that?
Yeah, let me give you an example, Adam. And one of the things, it's not necessarily in the tourism industry, but we can connect it. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how it works. I worked with a company and studied a company called Schwann's, and Schwann's is one of the largest frozen food distributors in the country.
Right.
And they had a salmonella outbreak that was linked to their trademark ice cream. Okay, and when they had this salmonella outbreak, salmonella spreads very quickly, and they had probably just under 200,000 cases very, very quickly. And the company responded by the CEO at the time, Alfred Schwann, saying, "If we were a customer of this company, how would we want this? How would we want our company to respond?" And they did some really innovative things. So they have these tanker trucks that go out and deliver frozen food to their customers. And so they notified them of the crisis and they recalled their ice cream. And they paid for medical tests for the people that had eaten their ice cream. And those that were worried, kind of what they call the worried well, that maybe hadn't had any symptoms yet, but were worried about the crisis, they paid for those medical tests as well. They sent out legal teams to help people understand. I don't know, Adam, if you've ever seen what a class action lawsuit looks like. You get something in the mail, it's very tiny print. No, you don't, at the end of reading that thing, Adam, you don't know if you're being sued, if you're suing someone else, what's going on, right? Well, they sent lawyers out to help people understand how they could become a part of a class action lawsuit against their company. And what happened was that there was incredible goodwill for this company. And they actually moved the trials from Marshall, Minnesota to Minneapolis because the trial lawyer said there's too much goodwill for this company. And the organization was able to kind of grow the next year, grow its customer base, and even do better than it had done in years that previous to the crisis, because people knew what the company stood for. So a threat bias is many companies, are worried about the legal implications of what they're going to say. They're worried about connecting with their company or with their customers. They're worried about how they're going to respond. And so oftentimes they say very little, or they say nothing, or they try to place the blame somewhere else. It was eventually found out that one of the companies that Schwann's had used to transfer some of its product had cross-contaminated the salmonella. And at that time, Schwann said, "Listen, we selected this company. We are completely fine with changing and learning from this event." So they built kind of a repasteurization plant. They could have shifted the blame to that company, but they took responsibility for it. And I think it's a great example of, or at least a counterexample of, an organization not just focusing on the threat, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But learning from the event, using ethical communication, those stakeholder relationships, and telling people what's going on, what they're doing, kind of having this prospective vision about how they can move forward and respond to the event and what this organization could do. And then it spoke to the rest of the food industry by saying, hey, look, if you go through an event like this, you should be we're the model of our industry. And even if you go through challenging times, if you accept responsibility, you stick by your customer, you provide them the information they need, that you can move beyond this event and actually grow, prosper, and move forward. So if you think about the hospitality and the travel and tourism industry right now, right, I think those same ideas apply, Adam, right? What go ahead.
Oh, let's talk about that, because for one, the first thing I want to do is, in talking about threat bias, I want to translate a little bit for the destinations that are listening here. And basically what I would translate it into is, if you're afraid to act for fear of a negative outcome, you could create a worse outcome because of the fear that you had of the negative outcome in the first place, right? And so I think that is one of the things that I want destinations to take away in this conversation is fear of a negative outcome could really cause more problems. So what you're saying is get proactive, get out in front of it. Now, the one place where I think I would say destinations might say, well, I'm not sure how to approach this based on what I've heard, is this COVID-19 situation is completely out of any destination's control, right? Like these negative situations that have happened, the unemployment, the negative blowback, even from advertising for travel when they don't feel like it's the right time, when maybe the society doesn't feel like it's the right time to be advertising, even though these destinations are trying to save the local businesses and things like that within their destination. The lack of control over what happened probably causes destinations to say, well, how can I take responsibility or take control of the conversation when we didn't cause it?
Yeah, it's a good example, Adam. And I think crises by definition are low probability, high consequence events. So there's always incredible amounts of uncertainty. And I think one of the things that I've tried to help leaders of organizations understand is there's threat associated with that uncertainty, but there's also opportunity. And so that opportunity is to learn from this event and learn about what's going on. There's also an opportunity to connect with your stakeholders and tell them, what a simple thing is, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and this is what we're doing to find out. Nobody really has control over information or understanding in a crisis, but you can connect with your stakeholders, your customers, the people that connect with you. You can give them a sense of what your position is, that kind of idea of what's your position on this crisis, what are you thinking about, and what's the future going to look like, right? If you've seen some of the new commercials that focus on Las Vegas from the Convention and Visitors Authority, right? They're talking about kind of these more intimate moments in Vegas, and it's going to be a different type of experience. And I think Las Vegas is trying to structure reality. What's this new reality going to look like? And they certainly don't want other people taking control of that narrative. They want to take control of that narrative and really connect with their customers to tell them, hey, this is what you can expect when you come to visit us.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and I may want to dive a little bit deeper into the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau. I want to tell you what I saw one destination do, and I'd love to get your reaction. Because early on in the crisis, especially, anytime you were saying "come visit" or you were using what I call acquisition messaging, trying to get visitors to your destination, there was a lot of social blowback, whether it was comments on a social ad or worse. And one of the destinations that I thought was just so brilliant in the way they handled it was Savannah, Georgia. And what Savannah, Georgia did is they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and immediately develop our recovery campaign, even though it's not safe to launch. And so they developed a really good phased recovery campaign. They had messaging for locals. They had messaging for people outside of the destination, for potential visitors, and they built it all out. And then they went to the news media and they said, we have developed our recovery campaign and we want to unveil and show it to you, but we're not launching it yet. And they got an incredible amount of earned media from being the first ones to demonstrate their recovery campaign to the market. And that to me goes back to what you said about looking to the future and making sure that you're controlling the narrative. They basically launched their recovery campaign without launching their recovery campaign.
I think it's a great example. And again, it kind of fits into those four areas that I've been talking to you about, Adam, that they're learning. You can tell this is an organization that's not just stuck, right? That they're learning about the event and that they're thinking about their customers. They're thinking about, and they're giving their customer information about how things are going to move forward, that they have that kind of vision of the future, This is what we're thinking things are going to go. And they're being an example of a model of their industry, right? That we're thinking about how things are going to proceed moving forward. And this is what other people should look for as well.
Awesome. Well, let's get tactical for our listeners real quick. Would you mind just, if you're a destination and your goal is to get more people to your destination to support your small businesses, to generate the tax revenue that's needed for the county or the city, or whatever your goals may be, give me kind of a step by step starting today. What am I going to do to make sure that I'm taking control of the messaging and that the narrative is coming from me?
So I think one of the first things that you have to do is really have that close connection with your customer, right? I think it all starts there. And so understanding what your customers' concerns are, what they're excited about, what they're thinking about in the near to midterm for their travel expectations, I think is absolutely crucial.
Would you do that through a survey or some other method of gathering that sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways. I would imagine that there's people that are calling in to your business, and that's a great time to get some anecdotal information. And I think surveys or focus groups or things like that you can begin to understand where your customer is coming from is absolutely crucial, because that connection is essential to guiding into developing your plan. I think so often, Adam, people start to develop plans without connecting with their customer first. And regardless of whether it's a crisis or not, that's a great place to start is, hey, what's your customer feeling and thinking, so that you have a better sense of how to engage with that person.
Got it. Okay. Step one, understand and engage with the customer.
Yeah.
Then what?
So once you learn what the customer is experiencing and feeling and wants, right, now's the time to think a little bit about your organizational learning and to think about what kinds of protocols are you going to have in place, and does that meet what your consumer is looking for? What type of processes are you going to have in place to make sure that that person's comfortable? What type of opportunities do you have, and how are those different from the way that was before?
So Rob, I think I get what you're saying, but once again, I just want to make sure that our destinations are grabbing the takeaway here. So you're saying if in your information gathering phase that your customer lets you know they're still a little bit hesitant or afraid to travel, part of your messaging strategy should include, here's what we're doing from a PPE standpoint to make sure that we're keeping you safe. It's mapping your messaging to what the customer told you that they need, right?
That's exactly right. And providing as many of those, opportunities for them to say, okay, I guess I don't have to be concerned about that. Or, oh, I didn't think about that. Or, wow, that's an interesting approach to handling that issue that I was concerned about.
Got it. Okay. Sorry I interrupted you. I just wanted to make sure that we had that takeaway for our listeners there.
Yeah, I think that's essential. And then from there, once you've been able to do that, then it's time to create kind of a vision, that prospective vision. It's an opportunity to talk to your customers and to the travel and tourism industry later about what your vision is for your resort or for your hotel or for your destination. And I think that vision, should build upon what the relationship that you've established with your customer and the learning that's taken place. Now's an opportunity for that kind of, here's what things are going to look like in the future. And I think the example I gave of Las Vegas is a good example of that. This is what you can expect when you come to our destination, and that should be consistent with what people are concerned about, are excited about, and the messaging in that learning phase. And then the final part I would say is you need to differentiate yourself and kind of be a model of your industry. So you have to really understand what your competitors are doing, what other people around the country are doing, so that you can be a model of for the industry and for your customer. So your customer gets a sense that you're best in class. That if there's uncertainties that they have and they're choosing between one destination or another, that they feel like your destination is the most appropriate and best in class for their travel during these really uncertain and difficult times.
Great, great. And there's lots of different ways for our listeners to be able to see what their competition is doing. I think one very simple way is using Google Alerts. And so if you have specific competition that you want to be aware of what they're doing, I would set up Google Alerts. So anytime a story runs about that destination and they mention let's say such and such CVB, then you can get an email in your inbox with that story so that you can see exactly what their narrative is. So, like you said, if they want to stand out, they need to be aware of what their competitors' messaging is and develop their plan to make sure that they don't just sound like the exact same thing, just change out the logo, change out the name of the CVB, and boom, it's the same message, right? And so I really think that either Google Alerts or even using a product like Meltwater, if you have access to it, or if your agency has access to it, to be able to kind of gather those stories and understand what's out there from a messaging standpoint.
Adam, I think that's just essential. I think in highly uncertain times, so many organizations, so many businesses, they don't want to stand out, right? So they just want to be what everybody else is being, right? And so they'll look out there and they'll see somebody that they think is doing well, and they'll say, well, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. In crisis times, right, you really want to be able to differentiate yourself if you can, because people are going to be making decisions. And I think the more you understand your customer base, somebody may develop a plan or an approach based upon their customer base. Your customer base may be a little bit different. And if you develop a plan based upon what someone else is doing, you could miss the mark totally with your own customer base and not get the customers from somebody else because they're already connected with them. So you have to be really careful about kind of copying what other people are doing. Much, much better connect with your own stakeholders, with your own customers, develop a plan, develop something that's unique and forward looking that you can engage people in. And I think you're going to be far better off.
Yeah, it's better to be copied than to do the copying, right?
Absolutely. If you can be copied, right, that's the best case scenario. That's absolutely right. People will be making the mistakes that you don't want to make.
Absolutely.
And it's natural at it. I think with this kind of uncertainty, I'm not even begrudging. I understand why organizations and leaders do it because they're who knows what to do, right? You mentioned it. There's so much uncertainty. Nobody's got a playbook for this. So if someone else comes up with something, they think, well, we should take it, or we should use it, or we should apply it. Big mistake when it comes to crisis situations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to go back to we kind of glossed over this, but I think it's really important. You talked about vision, and one of the things about vision and looking forward to the future, you kind of have to stage, and I guess phase is probably a better word for that, but you probably have to phase your vision, right? Because as far as your let's say we're using safety communication to go back to the example that we used before, and like here's the PPE that we're going to have. You don't want to have your eternal marketing or PR plan talk about PPE, right? You're going to need to kind of phase that out to where we're going to work within the new normal at some point, even though we don't totally know what that new normal is. And what you mentioned about the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, what they did is said what they did know about what that new normal is going to be, and they were able to set those expectations even if they weren't comprehensive. And anyway, I just want to make sure that people understand that vision is critical, but you don't have to know every single thing and when every single thing is going to happen in order to communicate your vision.
No, that's exactly right. And I think being able to just talk about an idea of what that vision or that future is going to be like, there can be some ambiguity or some uncertainty about that. There's going to be, right? But what's going to, remain the same is how we're going to treat our customer and the kind of experience that you can have and the excitement of travel and those kinds of things I think are going to be constants, but they may be executed in a little bit of a different way. And it's okay to not have all of the answers about that, but to let people know that you're there for them and that you're learning from this event and that you're, committed to giving them a great experience when they come visit you.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, this has been great. And I'm starting to feel like we could do this all day, and I'd enjoy it, and I hope you'd enjoy it. But I think we probably ought to kind of start winding it up a little bit into the major takeaways for the destinations that are listening. So first of all, if you could boil it down to one simple principle of everything we've talked about today, what can a destination walk away with and know that they need to do right now?
When they're dealing with a crisis, focus on the opportunities. Don't just focus on the threats when it comes to COVID or other types of crises that your organization or destination is going to be experiencing.
Opportunities. Focus on opportunities and positivity.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so difficult, and that's why that threat bias is so strong when people experience crises, and the uncertainty doesn't help Adam as well. But what organizations really have to understand is that if they take some time and focus on what they can learn, focus on the relationships and the information that they can provide, develop a vision for moving forward and becoming a model for their industry, they can actually improve as a result of a crisis. They can actually grow, prosper because of some of these devastating events.
Great. And Rob, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel like would benefit our audience to hear?
No, I mean, these are obviously challenging times, and I think, communities and organizations are going to recover. They're going to be able to move forward. They're just going to be different than it was in the past. And I think the more open any organization or group is to the new changes that will come from this crisis, I think the better off they'll be.
So embrace change instead of resisting it.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. What are we going to do about my dad's golf swing?
Oh boy. Good question. Actually, I think hopefully he's moving in the right direction. I think the last time we played, he played pretty well. I think you had mentioned to him that he tends to play better with me than he does with his sons. What's the rationale for that?
We may give him a little too much of a hard time. That could be part of the problem. But he just really wants to beat me, and he hasn't accepted that that's just not in the cards.
You guys do give him a hard time, and I think he loves it and loves the opportunity to get out and play with you guys, and I certainly enjoy playing with him. We have a chance as well. So,
well, we'll have to do it soon, Rob. I appreciate you taking the time to come on today, share some of your knowledge and experience with our audience, and it's been great to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Adam. Always great to spend some time with you. I know you're doing great things, and look forward to catching up more soon.
Great. Well, everyone, this has been another great episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you go leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you're listening to podcasts on. It would absolutely help us to continue to grow our reach and our brand in the industry. And if you're enjoying this content, we would really appreciate that. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week. You guys, I have been working on something for the last 6 months that has been such a giant project, but I'm so proud of it. I'm excited to announce that I've just released my book. It's called Touch Points, and it's the Destination Marketer's Guide to Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. And it is a comprehensive guide for destinations to look at their brand, evaluate what you've done, and make a very clear and detailed plan of action of how to fix it. And look, I'm biased, right? Because I wrote it, but I think it's so good. I think it's a great guide, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's available on Amazon. Search Touch Points by Adam Stoker, and you'll be able to get that book for your destination. And I think it's going to be, especially for anyone that is trying to look at their brand holistically, this is the book for you. So check it out.